I'm so pleased with how she turned out. Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kyla, and if you're one of my returning subscribers, thanks so much for stopping by. Well, as you can see, I finished up one of my digital PDF patterns that I got and showcased in my last video. This shirt is from the designer called the Sewist CAD, and it's called a Lekala shirt, pattern number 2587. I finished it up. She's ready to go. And after I took pictures of it, I just didn't want to take it off. So I thought, you know what, I'll just wear it for my intro and my outro of my video. So let's jump into what I did, and I'll let you know about a few changes that I made at the end. Not very many. I stayed true to the pattern, and it was very quick and easy for me to finish up. For the cuff piece and for the collar, it doesn't really specify from the actual pattern piece, but these are cut, I guess, with a fold. So I'll cut one side and then just move it to the other because both pieces have to be folded lengthwise to make a cuff and a fold over for the collar. With the seam allowances for this pattern, I know 5/8 of an inch is a standard seam allowance that I thought was used worldwide, but apparently, you can make whatever seam allowance you want for a digital pattern. All the seams are 1 centimeter. That's not 5/8 of an inch if I can convert that over. So I'll just make up my allowances as I go along and stay closer to the between a 3/8 and 1/2 inch mark, which is where this lands. And the same for the width of the elastic that's inside the cuff, which actually I just thought that it was like a normal dress shirt cuff, but there is elastic tape inside. 3.5 centimeters is not really 1.5 inches wide. I think it's like 1 3/8 or something like that. So we'll just have to adjust that as we go along too. And I'm glad that I looked at all these measurements before I cut my pieces out, just to be sure that I have enough allowance to work with. I've got the sleeves attached on both sides, and the pattern instructions are to stitch as if it were a dolman type sleeve or a bat wing sleeve. But the next step, I believe, is putting on the collar. So I'll attach that, and I'm almost there. Love how it's coming out though. I didn't see too much or too many specifics on how to finish off the plackets. So I'm just going off of how I finished plackets on other dress shirts before. I stitched inside about 3/4 of an inch, and I'm going to fold this right side out to give myself a corner point and help start with the hem. The back is a little bit trickier because it's on a curve, so we'll see how that goes. This is how I've been accustomed to putting on collars on other shirts that I've made, and folding one side up about 1/4 of an inch, and then when you flip it right side out and stitch in a ditch, always helps me with attaching a collar. They didn't really specify that in the instructions, but that's how I'm going to make this work. I'm following the same method that I'm using for the collar on the cuffs as well. Okay, I've got one cuff on, and something that I'm really liking with, I guess, the fluidity of how it moves, I only put the interfacing on one side of the cuff. And I think I should have done the same for the collar instead of interfacing the entire collar. So I might cut into it because it's still open and just remove the interfacing from one half of the collar up to the fold here. That way it can be a little bit more fluid, a little bit more floppy and easy to, adjust and play with, like the cuffs here. But I definitely like these just as is and not with the elastic tape that they suggested or that they called for in their instructions. So I'm going to leave it just like that. Yeah, I really like that. All right, now I can move on to the other cuff and then start working on the hem. It wasn't really clear on the size or the width of the hem on the back of the top. So I'm going to follow the guideline here. You can see the little indentation of, it looks like it's about 1 inch in the front. But the back, I'm going to have to treat that a little bit differently. I made a gathering stitch around the curve so that I can pull it and help me when I do a double folded hem. I love how this turned out, and I'm very happy with the color choice and the fabric choice as well. Now, the few changes that I made helped make the process a little bit easier for me, and maybe they'll help you out too if you attempt to make this shirt. First thing I did was the side pieces, front panels of the shirt. They have the instructions to cut 2 pieces for each side. and then pair them in half lengthwise. I only use one piece per side because with this thickness of fabric, that was good enough for me, and I didn't want the shirt to be too bulky and mess with the fluidity of how the shirt moved. The other thing that I did was the collar and the cuffs. Probably if I had a ultra lightweight fusible interfacing, then I would have interfaced the entire pieces. But because I didn't, and I had just a regular lightweight, it made them a little bit too stiff for me. So I split it down the middle and only interfaced half of the collar and half of each of the cuff. I also folded under the bottom edge of the cuffs and the collar so that I could stitch in the ditch when I attached it to the seams. That was really helpful too. And then the third thing that I did was the back was a little bit too long for me, and I just shortened it just a little bit, not too much. Oh, one more thing. They called for elastic tape to be inserted into the cuffs. I didn't want that look because I thought it would make it look more like some type of gathered top instead of a blouse. And I wanted to keep that blouse tunic type effect. So I just left it without the elastic, and when you roll up the sleeves, it stays up. So that worked out for me. So actually I did 4 things instead of 3. Other than that, I stayed true to what the pattern called for, and zip, zip, I was done. Well, that's it for today's video. Thanks so much for stopping by and watching. And I feel like with this color, I'm bringing spring in a little bit more. We're still struggling to get here because it's cold again right now. But I feel like with this robin egg blue, or as my friend over at Charmaine Sew Style Studio said, this is the Tiffany blue. I don't own anything from Tiffany's, but I'll take this. I will see you all in the next video. Happy sewing and take care. Bye, everyone.